What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Epic Handshake Podcast, the podcast about epic people that deserve an epic handshake. You can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere where you can find a podcast, as well as YouTube, where we have a video element where you can see all of our expressions, everything about us, not just in audio. Today I have Jonny, what's your last name?
Mackay.
Jonny Mackay. And Jonny Mackay was introduced to me by the guest in episode 1, Jenny Simons. And he's got a really cool story, a lot of cool things about him. As you can see if you're watching the video portion, we've got a nice backdrop. Jonny, do you want to introduce yourself? Who are you? Where'd you grow up? All that stuff.
My name's Jonny Mackay. I'm pretty much as Utahn as they come. I was born and raised here, lived here my entire life. I've traveled a bit, but I haven't gotten out a bunch. Very, very outdoorsy. I grew up with a cabin up in the Uintas, which I'm very grateful and very blessed to have, that I share with my family. My grandparents got it for us originally, and we've been taking ownership of it and taking care of it now. And so that really introduced me a lot to the outdoors and a lot of things that I love today, which has been great. What else would you like to know?
Yeah, so, just looking at I think we kind of talked about it before we even started the podcast, but you've got a lot of Western-themed items in your room here. And if you're not watching on YouTube, you really have to see. I mean, he's got a National Forest sign behind, which is a replica. A replica. Dude, but that's awesome. So what inspired that? Like, when did you decide, I guess, to make that a part of your...
Well, actually, this kind of ties a little bit into the story we're going to be talking about later. But so I was hospitalized for a little bit, and we came home, and they'd made a bedroom for me downstairs because I was in a wheelchair and obviously couldn't get upstairs. And so we tried to make it as much as a home for me as possible, and so we kind of tried to let me design it a bit, and I took a lot of pride in making that little space down there mine. And so when I got back up to my old room, which was just this mess before, and I obviously had a lot of things that I do now, but I didn't really take care of it, and I was like, I'm gonna make this my space. I'm gonna make my room my man cave. And so I went down to my basement where we had a bunch of my grandma's old paintings and stuff like that. She's a beautiful, beautiful painter. She's literally a female Bob Ross. She's got the hair and everything, the personality.
Did she do that one up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually just brought that one in recently, but
that's cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite.
If you don't mind,
paintings.
I'm going to take a picture of that later so people can see what we're talking about.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
But especially growing up with my cabin and stuff like that, my grandparents were very good at decorating. My grandpa was a mortician, and they came, and he was a cowboy. He owned a few hundred acres in West Valley on a farm. My grandma grew up in Vernal, and then they didn't have a lot of money, and then my grandpa started getting all this money, and so they were just putting it out wherever they could,
investing it,
and getting a bunch of nice stuff. This ring here, I don't know if you guys can see it. It was my grandpa's. He was a huge man. This was his pinky ring, and it hardly fits on my index finger, but he was 6'4".
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so he was 6'4", and he's a big dude.
Yeah, he looked exactly like John Wayne too. His name was John, and a cowboy. Great man, but he died sadly when I was about 7 years old. But I don't know, just growing up in that environment and having all of that, and just having all of these antiques and stuff available to me, it was very easy to decorate my room. And a lot of the stuff I've acquired from friends. A lot of beautiful memories and amazing stories. I mean, you could probably pick up most anything in my room, and it's got a story attached to it, which is what I love. It's not just random decorations that you find at Hobby Lobby or something like that.
Of course. And, things like this, I mean, people try to mimic all the time with, fake stuff, and it's kind of disheartening because you see all of that and you're like, dude, I have the real thing.
Well, you can tell the authenticity too when things don't really match, but they go together well. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's the aesthetic that kind of brings it together. It doesn't even have to be the same color or, anything like that, or even the same design. I mean, if it's a similar idea, of course it's going to fit together. Yeah. So I like it. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it was very nice to come up here, and especially after, having my world shaken a bit, to have a place that felt so much like a like little comfort, safe space for me that I could really just kind of be within myself. And I have got mad ADHD, so it was great to have a project as well.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. And also, so I guess we might as well jump into talking about it. That way it kind of segues into other things that we talk about. But so it's the anniversary, right? Or it's pretty close to the anniversary of your fall.
I don't know when this will be released, but it's exactly a week away from
what's the date?
The August 18th.
August 18th.
So I fell on 08/18/18.
I might even be able to put it on that day.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we might do that. But yeah, let's dive into that story a bit. You shared a bit with me, but so I think part of the reason why I wanted Jonny on, and I think why he was referred to me by Jenny, is because I mean I think he's lucky to be. I'm lucky to be talking to him right now, and he's got a really amazing story. He's going to go ahead and tell that.
Yeah, so again, growing up very outdoorsy and especially living in Utah, I don't know how many of your viewers are from Utah, but being where I am, I've got a 20-minute drive or a 30-minute drive or 40-minute drive to 10 different canyons and, 1,000 different hikes and stuff like that. And especially after high school, I met a good friend of mine, Bennett, and we started going hiking a lot, and that's really when it very much took off for me. I think I took it for granted for most of my life, but I was hiking a lot, and then, I was a very avid hiker. At this time, I was of the incident. I was wakeboarding once a week. I started rock climbing. I was working 50-hour days, walking around a warehouse and hiking.
How old were you?
20.
Okay.
So it'll be 3 years ago. But I was very athletic. My body and my legs were everything that almost brought me joy in my life. And so just a regular Saturday, I went hiking up to a waterfall called Horsetail Falls, which is an alpine. It's just over in the other valley. A beautiful, beautiful hike. I highly recommend it. I don't know if all of you are going to want to hike it after I finish this story, but
I'd try it.
Yeah, it's a good one. But I went up on this hike. I tried inviting a few people, but of course with how much I had been hiking and getting out there, it was kind of hard to get people to go with me all the time. But this was also kind of one of those hikes that was a little bit more for me. I used to use hikes to think and come to certain conclusions. And
I think a lot of people do that, which is good. I do that.
Yeah, and so this was one of those times. And so I went up on this hike to 1,500 feet elevation gain, I think about 4 miles out and back. But I'd been up there only once before, and it was with a good friend of mine at the time. And we'd just gone up to these little turquoise pools, which are above the actual waterfall. I hadn't been to the actual waterfall before. But I went up there. I had taken this little ice bath. It was a gorgeous day. I'd taken my shoes and socks off, my shirt, and I don't know if do you know what a life straw is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was sitting there just drinking straight out of it, and it was a good day. It was a beautiful day. But I was like, I should go see the actual waterfall. This is the second time I've done this hike and hiked past the waterfall, and so I didn't know how to get down to it because the actual trail, you have to go down these kind of scramble down these boulders and stuff like that. So if you walk past it, unless you're just going to walk right on past. Right. But I had gone down, and the thing that was it's good to know about when I'm telling this story is that this isn't just a regular river. It's literally just boulders the size of buildings downtown that water has just carved its way out of.
Oh,
so there's not boulders and stuff like that when you step on. So I'd taken my boots off, and I'm kind of in this little hallway thing with rocks on little cliffs on both sides of me. And I had walked through the river, and I kind of got to the middle, and I was like, this is pretty sketchy because it's just slimy. Your feet don't grip onto anything. But the only thing that's more dangerous than just walking through something slippery is trying to pivot on your feet on something slippery. Yeah. So I was I'm just going to get to the other side. And I made it to the other side, and I'm sitting on the edge of the waterfall, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous view. You're looking down this canyon. You can see the top of Utah Lake, and then you can see these little mountain ridges that kind of just go out of.
That's what I love about Utah.
Yeah, out of view. And I was just content. I was probably one of the most content times I've ever had in my life. It was beautiful, and I'd kind of come to the conclusions that I wanted to. and kind of felt like, like things were going to be okay. And I'm all right. I've been through a lot of crap in my life, and I've gone through it all, and I'm going to be okay. I mean, I had an amazing summer. I was like, this is kickoff. I'm going to be moving to Moab in the spring, have a van, live down there. It's going to be great. It's like, I'm going to be okay. And then I turned to leave. I flipped over to my right side, and I was on all fours, on three at the time, and then I planted my right foot down. I remember looking down, and it wasn't like in the river, but it was just on just the spray residue on the side.
The cusp of the stream. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just pressed it down, and the moment that I did, I was like, shit. And my foot just shot out from underneath me, and I started sliding down. And for reference, it's a 100-foot waterfall. And at this moment, I'm looking down, and it's like the world pauses. And I don't remember seeing my body. I don't remember feeling my body. I don't remember hearing anything. It was just like somebody had this drone that was just going down for this little bit. And I was just like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die right now, right here. And it was the most peaceful moment of my entire life. And I don't know if it was just because I was like, I'd come to a good conclusion and I was happy in the moment. And then, I mean, you have no control.
Right.
What would worrying have really done me? I don't know if that I'm necessarily some Zen person or whatever, right. But I was just like, I'm going to die. And I'd closed my eyes and I fell. And to backtrack a bit, we talked about him a little bit earlier. There was this guy, Michael Watson, who had been hiking with his kids, his girlfriend, and her kids. And they had gone up on the hike, and they had made it down to the waterfall, and they'd been playing in the little pool at the bottom. It's a shallow pool, probably about like 18 inches deep. Yeah. And it was freezing cold, and he wanted to kind of make his kids have a nicer place to play. So he moved all these big boulders from this rock that had dropped down there and shattered into all these jagged pieces. So he removed all of them, and of course those had probably been there for, I don't know, a week, maybe 2 months, years, who knows. But in that 30 minutes before I fell, he removed these jagged boulders. And then this other couple came down after they'd been playing down there for a while, and Mike and Eileen, and their kids, they were like, okay, we're going to go get some food. And so they hiked up to the top. And then also Michael Watson, I'll refer, because then there's Mike and Catherine who came down. So okay. There's two Mikes here. So sure. Michael Watson, Michael is the guy who saved my life. He's the one with the kids. And then Mike is the one that came down after. But they go down there. He's sitting on this log at the bottom, and Catherine's taking a video, and she's taking this video of the view and kind of wraps it around over to the waterfall, and she stops it, looks up, and watches me fall. And I land 5 feet in front of her.
Oh my gosh.
And so Michael has just made it up to the top, and they're trying to decide where to eat, and all of a sudden he hears what he thinks is a tree or something falling, because it just hears breaking and snapping and this sliding and and then this big thump, and so he thinks that Mike is fallen or something like that, because he was kind of up in this little weird place. But then he hears Mike start screaming for help, and they're like, call 911, call 911. And he peeks over and he sees what he thinks is a lifeless body in this pool, halfway in the pool. My upper body was in the pool, and my lower body just landed straight on granite.
Was your head submerged at all?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
I almost drowned. Yeah, that was the thing that really almost killed me. But he starts running down. Mike and Mike's trying to care to Catherine, because she's probably one of the more traumatized people in this story.
Watched it happen. Yeah,
and she thinks that I've died. And and then as he gets down there, I'm starting to pick my head up, and I'm kind of looking around, and he gets down to me, and he goes, and I'm like, what just happened? And he's like, you just fell off that waterfall. And like reality's still not really set in.
Pain isn't there yet. Nothing's there yet.
Well, just then I've hit my head, and I'm like coming out of the water. I mean, it's like, even when you just wake up from a nap, like
you're disoriented. Like, what year is it? Type thing.
Yeah, add a head trauma onto that. And it's a lot worse. But and I'm kind of like, holy crap! Like, is this a dream? What's going on here? I don't know what's happening? It's like, this can't be real. And then kind of things start to get back together, and I'm like, holy crap, like that just happened to me. And he has military training and EMT training.
Oh, that's lucky.
And so he checks my spine, runs his hand down my spine to make sure that I'm okay. And so at the time, I'm wearing nothing but shorts and a backpack.
Okay.
That's
so
all.
he could see your skin just fine.
Yeah. And so my side was all scraped up, but there didn't seem to be any like very visual bleeding, which was good. But of course, in those situations, when you have a 100-foot fall, there's obviously a lot else going on
internally,
so
especially. Yeah.
He grabs me by the armpits and he pulls me out into his lap, and my leg just basically sinks into mush.
Oh.
So I've broken my femur. I shattered my pelvis. I broke my tailbone in 3 places. My right SI joint came off of my spine. I lacerated spleen, bruised a kidney, broke a rib, collapsed a lung, had a brain bleed, severe internal bleeding, hypothermia.
Oh my gosh.
And so he's holding me in his lap, and he's like, okay, what's your name? And I'm like, I'm Jonny Mackay. And he goes, okay, like, well, we need to, like, you're not in good shape right here, but things are going to be okay. We need to get somebody here. And so he has, so when he was running down, he had his girlfriend Eileen call the police, and they couldn't really get great reception, but they found this little spot, and then her phone and my phone were the only ones that could get reception, which luckily my phone survived the fall in my backpack. Sure. If Verizon's looking for new people to do commercials with, I'm the guy.
Yeah. Their 5G network.
Yeah, I know. But there was that one commercial of the guy that's like, I fell from a tree and I was out in the woods alone. I was like, dude, you don't have nothing on me.
You don't even know.
You don't even know. But he's holding me in his lap, and he has Catherine call on my phone, and then he calls my mom, and he handled it perfect. I don't even know how he did this with me, like, in his lap, but he calls her and he goes, yeah, Johnny fell hiking. He might have a head trauma or something like that. We're gonna get. And she's like, I'll just pick him up. Why is this like? I don't want to pay for.
Why are you calling me?
Yeah, it's like I don't want to have to pay for
fine.
an ambulance and stuff like that. And he's like, no, we're gonna get an ambulance.
Yeah.
But
well, I think that's important in EMT's training, because he doesn't want her to panic.
Yeah.
You know, and potentially get into an accident on the way to wherever she's headed to. So that was very very wise of him to do that.
He handled it amazingly.
Yeah.
But the pain kind of starts to set in a little bit more at this point, and reality starting to kind of hit. And of course I'm in shock, but shock doesn't last forever.
No.
And it doesn't battle off everything. And funny story, I've broken a femur before.
Sure.
I've broken both of them
now.
Gosh, but I broke my first one when I was 7 years old. And I've always had a very high pain tolerance, but femurs are not fun. I've got my plate from when I was 7 over in a drawer over there. We'll have to show that at some point. But so I kind of knew that it was not good, and I'm not really like looking down too much, and of course I'm just like dazed and confused, and I'm trying to kind of figure out what's going on. And Mike and Catherine are there now, trying to help and talk to me, and
they're keeping you awake.
Yeah. I didn't really understand this for like a few months, but and I felt extremely tired. And the worst thing about this is that when you're in an intense amount of pain and you're tired, you're like, yeah, I could go to sleep. I wouldn't feel any more pain. Like, I'd just go asleep. But, and it's it's like somebody gave you like a handle of tequila, like 5 Tylenol PMs, a melatonin, and you're supposed to like stay up. You know, it's hard, especially when you have such an incentive to just not feel that pain anymore. But you know, like in the back of your head, it's like, if I will die, because for people who don't know, when you sleep, your body slows down how it's doing things, so oxygen won't get into your blood as well, and your organs start to slow down and not use the processes.
Be active.
So you can stay awake for like a while you have bad bleeding or internal bleeding or something like that, but you can die within 15 minutes if you fall asleep, which is, of course, nobody was saying that to me, but they're like, no, buddy, you gotta stay awake. And it was kind of funny, not to him at the time, but Mike's trying to like figure out something to talk to me about. He's like, you like sports? He's like, you like basketball? And I was like, I don't watch sports at all. And you could just see him in the head go like, shit, I don't know what to talk to this. I missed
the mark on that one.
I was like, I don't know what to talk to this kid about.
He's trying to, juggle like 6 other different things, and small talk isn't going to be one of them. Oh, geez, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, well, it was just funny to watch him be like, I don't have anything else to talk about. Basketball is my thing, but they'd asked me like if I wanted to like listen to some music at one point, and so I gave him my phone. I told him the password, and I was like, I want to listen to actually these guys on my hat. Camp. Camp. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I think so, actually.
But they're one of my favorite bands. I don't know if any of you guys haven't heard of them, but you guys should check them out if not. But I had a complete camp playlist and was listening to it, and I was like, if I'm gonna die, like, this is the kind of music that a lot of it's very close to my heart. I've had a lot of great experiences. I've met the band I think once at this point. We talk a bit, and I try to hang out with them at concerts now. They're good, very good guys. The bassist just released an album yesterday, The Wonderful. You guys should go check
congrats.
it out.
That's cool. It's a great album. Have to check them out because what type of music is it?
It's like folk music.
Okay, dude. Yeah. I love Fleet Foxes, and so that's one of the.
So these guys are just great. It's they've I'll talk about them later. But I'm sitting there though, and I'm listening to their music, and I'm trying to like start to have this conversation with yourself, because obviously again you're so tired. I remember being so thirsty. That's probably one of the things I remember more than pain was thirst. And I'm like, guys, just give me a drink of water. And he's like, don't give him any water. And for one, he didn't tell me now. Yeah, it's like it increases your bleeding. So he's like, no, you can't have any water. And that's also in the hospital because I was going through surgery. So they were like, you can't have any water. I was like, I haven't had a sip of water in like a week. And I love water. And so being extra thirsty like that was terrible.
And it's crazy because like even when they give you IVs and stuff like that, it still doesn't
it's just your mouth is so parched. Especially when you got a tube in your throat. Hydrate. But yeah, you start to have this conversation with yourself, and you're like, could I let myself die? Because again, I am in so much pain. I mean, they say that again, your femur is like an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, and so I've broken my femur, shattered my pelvis. They stopped counting my breaks after 12 in my pelvis. But and you're tired, and it's just like you're thinking to yourself like, I won't have to worry about a single thing ever again. It's like all of the crap that I've been through. It's like I'm not gonna have to worry about that. It's like all of that hope of something getting better in my life. It's like I won't have to worry about that anymore.
Right.
And as I'm having this conversation with myself, this song by Camp comes on called "Send the Fisherman," and it's about these guys who go out to sea, and they're in this little crappy boat, and the storm comes and hits them. And just to make sure that I get the lyrics right, I pulled them up because this was probably one of the most pivotal points in like the entire thing. And I'm probably about an hour and 15 minutes into this, and so like everything's really starting to hit me, But the two verses that hit the most is "Somebody save us, somebody get here quick. Send the Coast Guard, the Navy, and the fishermen. And assure yourself, my friend, that we are shit out of luck. So I'm sleeping at the bottom of the ocean, sinking slow, feeling the pull of the motion of things that you think you know." And it pauses, and I'm like sitting there like, shit, like I'm at that point. Like I can feel myself start to sink more into myself. I'm ready to die. I'm on that verge of death. And then it goes, wait, it's okay. Haven't we been here before? Haven't we been here before? What's your name? Because we're going to swim back onto shore, because kicking's what these feet are for. And what better
perfect time.
Yeah, what better lyrics.
Yeah.
And in that moment I'm thinking, it's like I have been through way too much way too much to quit on myself now. I have, I've been beat down through a lot of my life, and I'm always with this hope that something was going to get better one day, that, I'm going to have, because I know the kind of person that I can be, and it's a beautiful person. It's an amazing person. I know the kind of potential for a life that I can live, and it's incredible. It's one of the most amazing things that I can ever dream of. And like, was I really about to like let myself
just go?
Yeah. Just go like that. And I remember they're asking me to like move my toes and stuff like that, and I was like, and I remember watching my left toes were fine. Then I broke up that side, but my right side was where the most damage was, because that's where my pelvis came off my spine. And I remember like watching my toes barely go, and I remember thinking like, these feet are meant for kicking, I'm gonna be okay. And I put myself into overdrive to live. And I remember sitting there just, and you start to like think over your life and everything. And let me tell you, for anybody that's wondering, I never had any regrets about not having enough money or anything like that. It was just that I didn't love my family well enough, and I didn't do all the things that I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
Those are the only two things that mattered.
Like missed opportunities and things like that. Things that you should have seized that if given another chance you would seize.
Yeah. And things are just kind of getting worse at this point. I'm just really, really sinking into myself. And I remember because he's holding me in his lap. I think he was like, his legs out. And I'm starting to kind of get a little bit more delirious at this point, and the pain's really, really setting in, and it's an incredible pain. I reach up and I'm grabbing his arms, and apparently I squeezed so tight that he had these like stretch marks on his arms for like a year after that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Holy crap. From just grabbing his arms. Then I remember I almost bit his arm, and he's like, here's my jacket. You're gonna, because it hurts so bad. You're gonna bite on that. And I'm not making sense anymore. I'm just asking, like, am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? And he's trying to get me talking. And then I was like, I want you guys to call my brother. And so Catherine calls my brother, and she's like, yeah, life flight's on the way. And then he goes, I thought that he just hit his head, and an ambulance is coming from. Life flight's a big jump from ambulance. And then so they kind of were like, yeah, he's in very bad shape. He's in incredibly bad shape. And so they were like, okay, well, what hospital is he going to be at? And then they figured out it was going to be IMC in Murray. So my whole family drove there, and they're waiting for me. And I had to wait about 2 hours and 15 minutes before I actually got to the hospital. Oh, and the three things that make the most red blood cells in your body are your femur, your pelvis, and your spleen. And I destroyed all of those things. Yeah, so... we'll get to that in a bit, but and then I had them call some girl that I was dating at the time, and I remember, hey, it's funny. You can tell my parents raised me well in this, because I'd be like just yelling out and swearing and stuff. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm like apologizing, and Michael's like, it's okay, dude. You can say whatever you want. No
kidding. But I don't think they'd fault you for that. For sure.
I know. But I was like, I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. But I was like, there are kids around. I'm better than that.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
Yeah, but and then finally, what was very frustrating about this is, of course, I'm like kind of apparently I'd read the letter that he had, because he has a journal entry about it, and I was reading it, and I don't remember this exactly, but apparently by the time, because the helicopter comes in, and it's a basket drop crew.
Yes.
So
and I was going to ask about that. Like, were you in an area where it was
semi-accessible? There's no way. I'll send you some pictures that you can show on here, because there's some photos of me at the waterfall waiting for the helicopter.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's just this like little rocky ledge, and there's only one life flight crew in Utah apparently, and like 15 minutes before we called, somebody else in Vernal had to get the basket drop crew. So they have to go get this guy, get him back, go, get everything that they need, gas up, and then come here. And of course they're like a 3-hour car drive away. So I don't know how how long that would be with a helicopter, but I mean, it was at least 2 hours for them to get to him and then get to me. And I remember watching the helicopter come up above me. And I'm like, finally, I'm getting out of there. And of course, they just do a once over, and then they like disappeared for 15 minutes to decide what they were gonna do.
Right.
And that pissed me off, of course. But like you're like yay, and you're like, where are they? You know, they're like, I need you guys right now. But they did the basket drop where the guy came down. His name was Jason. I've been trying to, if anybody happens to know a Jason that's in a Lifelike crew, hit me up on Instagram, Moose Wrangler. I would love to talk to you. I've tried to been to the hospital to get a hold of him. I try to be in touch with most of the people that were involved with this as much as possible.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, because it's all pivotal, and you want to document that. And at least say thank you.
Also, I think the sad thing for a lot of people to do situations like this is they never get to see how it turns out.
Yeah, they don't.
You know,
it's a very thankless job.
Yeah.
Like if you're not like a surgeon or nurse, someone right there at the end.
They only get to see people in their worst moments, and then never again.
Yep. And
that's a hard job. That is a very hard job. But they take me down, and it's like this basket looks like it's something that somebody made in like home ec or something like that. It's like twine, and I remember they like tried to push me over, and I was like so close to death that I remember that they rolled me over onto my left side, which is the broken up side, and like I was like, this doesn't even matter, you know.
Yeah,
like
it probably hurt, but you were in so much pain that it didn't make a difference anyway.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm just using like hand signals to kind of tell people things, you know, and like I couldn't even hardly form sentences. And the reason that I know that it was exactly 100-foot fall is not just because the website, but on the waterfalls, they said that we only have 100 feet of rope. We were level with the waterfall, and we dropped it down, and you were exactly with it. But to clarify, though, it is like a little bit of a steep thing. So I think that, it's not a straight fall. It's a little bit more like this.
Like a slide.
But I slid about 20 feet, and I hit something, then I popped out, and then fell the last bit, just free falling.
Oh,
so it was like 100-foot-ish fall, I guess. However you want to clarify it. But of course, anything over your head can kill you. So
yeah, it's true.
Just count your blessings. But this was probably one of the coolest experiences of my life, though. And of course, I'm having a hard time appreciating it. I'm underneath this basket. Underneath the helicopter, flying down a canyon with my arms like hanging down. I was like, this is the coolest roller coaster that I'm ever going to be on.
Did you almost forget your pain at that point? Like as you're kind of flying?
I was just like so tired, and I was like, if you live, you're never going to be able to experience this again. And if you do, you're an idiot. But but I'm like trying not to fall asleep, and I'm like, it's so pretty. Look at this. This was gorgeous. But they came down, and they landed me in a field. And then they put me into the helicopter, and the lady was like, it's okay, you can rest now. And I think we were just close enough that they were like, you're going to be okay. But we get to the hospital, and they rushed me in, and they actually rushed me past my family, and they basically were like, if you guys want to go say something to him, now is the time, because you're awake. You can at least say something. They were fairly sure that I was about to die. So they were like, and your eyes were open, everything, right? But my grandpa was a mortician. My dad grew up, his first job was digging graves. He used to run in to give my grandpa lunch, and he'd see bodies on the table. Yep. He said that he looked at me, and I was just a moving dead body. He said that my skin was gray. There was no blood hardly left in my body. I don't know if you know much about. Do you know much about the units of blood? Yes, I do. It's 8, right? Yeah. That's an issue. Yeah, we talked about it in 2 episodes ago with a friend of mine that actually was run over by a train. Yeah. So I went through 48 units of blood in my first surgery. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, that's a lot. What's the people that draw the blood? I forget. I don't know. But they were. I'm terrible with medical terminology. Yeah. I should know this, especially because it's me. But they apparently used me for like a week, being like, guys, we need people to donate blood now. We had this. Some kid fell off a waterfall. I went through like 40. They said like 45 units of blood, but they're like, we need people to donate. We are like last week was crazy. We're very low. But so I get in there. They basically like have my family say goodbye, and they were like, this kid's about to die. We need to cut him open now. Anesthesiologist, get to him when you can. And so they started cutting me open while I was awake from my stomach down to my groin. So I've got a scar that's this long. And I died for a short time in that surgery. And I didn't know that for a little while. But I wake up like 3 days later. So that first surgery was just and they had to cut me open so large because they don't know where the internal bleeding is.
Right.
And so they just put a bunch of packing in, and then they like saran wrapped me closed, and they're like, we'll get it out tomorrow. But and so I was in a coma for I think about 2 to 3 days.
It's a medically induced coma.
Yeah. And so they had the 2 surgeries on my stomach. One was to get in there and then to remove the packaging, and they put in a plate on my pubic bone because I had an open book fracture, which just means that your pubic bone's broken. And then the next surgery was to put 4 plates in the left side of my pelvis. So luckily it was only 4. They were gonna have to put in 8, but they cut me, and my surgeons were they did not care about cutting me open. I've got 5 feet of surgical incisions on my body. I've met other people with similar injuries, and they just got like little incisions here and there.
Yeah.
But mine goes from the top of my thigh up around my pelvis into my spine.
Yeah, they probably saw a lot of stuff during the x-rays too. You know, they probably saw a lot of worrisome things that they didn't want to miss, and so that's probably why.
So they're like, we're going to make sure we've got everything. They cut me open completely, but the surgeon was talking to me about it was supposed to be an 8-hour surgery, and it was only 4, and that was like 2 hours of prep.
Oh, man.
But they said that they opened me up, and they kind of like tried to push the pelvis back together to see how it would fit, and they took their hands off, and it just stayed there, and they're like, nobody touch anything. we're gonna try to put these in like this, because usually they have to put a plate in here so they can hold that there and then put these in there, but everything was just kind of holding. So they did across like all the big pieces and got like 5 breaks and with like one or 2 plates.
Oh, good.
And then the next surgery was to put a titanium rod in my left femur, and then the last surgery was to put 2 screws this big and this big into my pelvis to reattach my pelvis and spine. And
that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, but
did this freak you out? Like after they were explaining everything to you, like when you were finally?
That's the weird thing is that I was just like, I didn't realize how crazy it was that my pelvis came off my spine until we were over just actually these people right over here. I was over talking to some of them. I think that it was like a mission homecoming or something like that. Yeah. I'm in a wheelchair and I went to say hi, and I was just like explaining it, and I was like, my pelvis came off my spine. And everybody was like, you're what? And I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I guess that is a big deal.
That's
almost just since it happened to me, and probably drugged when they told me about it. It was just like, this happened. That happened.
Yeah, no biggie.
Yeah, but that's probably caused the most issues for me though. It's just like a lot of lower back pain, and then the nerve pain, which has been the worse than the pain that I felt from the fall.
For sure.
But yeah, I was only in the hospital for 11 days. They thought I was going to have to be there for like 6 months to a year. And the only reason I stayed that long was just because they needed to make sure I could poop because I was on oxy for so long.
Yeah.
But they were
that
like,
affects your nervous system big time.
Yeah, but they were like, this kid's going to die. This kid's never going to walk. He's going to be here forever. He's never going to run. And I don't run great, but you can you're not be doing foot races, but you can jog, I do my job. I do physical labor. I'm lifting pallets that are like anywhere from 30 to 60 to 70 pounds all day. So I've bounced back better than any of the doctors could, but could have said that I was going to. I mean, I had great surgeons, I should say. After you get the surgery, nobody cares. But
and I'm almost wondering, like, do they care afterwards? I mean, like, yes, I just did this surgery. I went home to my family every night, and always wonder like about doctors that do intense surgeries like that, in such short notice.
Yeah, well, I would have thought that something like me would be like this is a staple for your resume. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
But no, I'd do follow-ups, and they'd have their like assistant talk to me, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to be able to walk again.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to somebody that was in the next room while I was getting this surgery,
Yeah.
But
I wonder why that happens, though. I wonder why they send the assistant. I mean, everybody needs to be employed, but at that point, I don't know.
I think that there's just not enough surgeons.
Maybe.
And I think that they're too busy. I think they focus more on actually doing the surgery than they do on like helping the person.
Right.
And I don't think that's any fault of the surgeon. I think it's just the medical system.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's just the flow of like, okay, they're admitted, they're assessed by certain people, the actions are performed by a team of people. That team of people moves on to other things. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. When it enters their room, it's their problem.
Yeah, and
I shouldn't say that.
You're doing surgery so much too. It's like yeah, you're that guy I did surgery on like 4 months ago. You know?
Oh yeah.
I've done 100 since then. You know.
Yeah, it almost becomes impersonal to them.
Yeah,
because like maybe they try to detach themselves a bit from those, because if they get too attached, then I don't even think they would have time to get attached.
Yeah.
You know, so they just don't, and then they just do the surgery, perform it, make sure it's all ship shape to spec, and done.
Yeah.
They move on.
And so not perfect. I don't know if I have any way to solve it, and
maybe
I try not to complain about things I don't have solutions for. But
did you go to? Excuse me.
No worries.
Did you go to physical therapy for a long time afterwards?
No. This is actually funny. I don't know why they took so long to get me into physical therapy, but it was like, I think like 4 months later, that they finally got me to physical therapy. But so I was like 2.5 months in a wheelchair, and then I was supposed to be on a walker after that, and it annoyed the crap out of me. He's like, I'm just going to use a cane. And again, my grandpa had a cane that I just started using, a beautiful one.
Do you have it?
It's in my car, actually.
Oh, it's okay. No
I keep it next to me because I still use it occasionally, just because it's not because I can't walk. It's that if my limp is more noticeable, I like to use it. And also, how stylish is a cane?
Yeah, does it have like a cool headpiece?
It's just a regular kind of looking cane, but it's all hand carved and painted, and it was made in the Philippines. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cane.
With the whole aesthetic, I think you should get one with like a bear head or an eagle head on the top. And like as you get older, because I mean I'm sure you're gonna feel this more and more as you get older too. You know.
I know I already feel so much older than I am.
Yeah, like joint pain and you know I don't know, lack of motor in certain areas of your body. I don't know how it could run all types of ways.
The biggest thing that I've noticed is just I'm exhausted. I get exhausted. But back to the physical therapy. I was using this cane, and I was like, I'm feeling okay. It's like, I've got physical therapy tomorrow. Screw the cane. And so they're looking at my x-rays, and they're like, is he gonna come in a wheelchair? Like, this is crazy. And I walked in, I'm like, yeah, I'm Jonny Mackay. And they were like, okay. And they like went back, and the guy came out, and he's like, we didn't know what to expect, but it definitely wasn't this.
Like just strolling on in there,
just
nonchalantly, and like, hey, I'm Jonny Mackay.
But I eventually quit. The physical therapy was great, but I wanted to be pushed more. You know, everybody talked about how bad physical therapy was, so I stopped even taking my oxy. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna save this because they didn't give me any refills on it. So I was like, I'm just gonna,
in case you have some issues down the road.
If it's just terrible. And I remember like getting into it, and I'm like, I thought I was gonna leave here crying. You know, and then finally I just walk in, and I knew the workouts well enough that they wouldn't even really hardly talk to me. I just like do my physical therapy and be like, okay, see you guys.
Because how often would you go every week?
Once a week.
Once a week, okay.
Yeah, and this is when I met Jenny. Me and Jenny actually matched on Tinder, and
I could see that.
Yeah, we matched on Tinder. She seemed like a cool gal, but I'd kind of told her my story, and she was like, well, I've got this friend that runs a private gym, an adaptive athlete gym. You should come down.
That's cool.
Yeah,
she would have that connection.
Yeah, so my first time going in, it was just like Jenny. She's just got like headphones on, and she's just like blasting some music and like doing some crazy leg workouts. She gets up, she's like, hey, you know, like,
Jenny, if you're watching, we're making fun of you.
We are just a little bit. She's a badass, but yeah, and I worked out there for a while, which was an amazing opportunity, and sadly it got shut down. But at this time, I was going rock climbing so I started rock climbing about, I think, 4 months after my fall.
Oh.
And I was bouldering, though, so I wasn't doing rope climbing, but people are like, bouldering's stupider, but I'm like,
it's maybe what you want to do. Who cares?
Yeah, if there's one thing I can say that I have a very natural inclination for, it's rock climbing. Do you know much about climbing grades and stuff like that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, my first 2 weeks before my fall, I finished a V7 indoors.
Really?
2 weeks.
Dude, that's impressive.
Yeah. And it was 2 dynos, so I wouldn't say it was anything super technical.
But after 4 months after your after your fall, that's a big deal.
Oh, this was 2 weeks, but this was my first 2 weeks of climbing ever. And then 4 months after I started climbing, and I was doing like V5s and stuff like that, and then I finished a V7 within like 6 months. Within 6 months after my fall. But I haven't climbed in a while though. It's just too hard to find people, and it got too expensive. But I was going rock climbing like every other day, and then I'd go to this gym every other day, and I'd work out. Right. So I'd like climb for like 3 hours, and then I'd go to this gym, and I'd do high intensity interval training for like 4 hours. You know, I don't know. And he never let me take pre-workout, because whenever I did, I would not leave the gym. I just go crazy.
Yeah, 4 hours is a long time doing high intensity workouts there.
But I used that pain to just, and I went through a bad breakup.
Oh, so you had time to kill.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Yeah, I was like, I can't work right now. I'm heartbroken. This is fun, and you know, it became this thing where I hadn't really worked out a lot before, but it just became this thing where I was like, I'm gonna become better than I ever have. You know, I was like, I'm gonna run a Spartan race. I'm gonna do triathlon, all this stuff, and that's probably where the story gets a little bit worse, though, is that I just let myself, I let the wrong people into my life. And when you're in situations like that, it's like you're up on stilts, you know, and people can either be there and they're holding you still and they're helping you out, or the smallest thing can send you toppling over.
Sure. Yeah, you're super vulnerable in those situations, for sure. Like whether it be, you know, and compounding in this situation for you, it was breaking up, it was, you know, repairing your body, it was jumping into new hobbies, it was a lot of different new things that you probably never had experienced before. Yeah. So I can understand that.
There's this really weird thing that my brain's done, and I understand why, but when I get the nerve pain, which is like getting tortured with a cattle prod for like, you know, 10 hours sometimes, but it was very bad right after, and like the one thing that like brought me comfort was this girl. My brain kind of has this, when I get nerve pain, it has this kind of like repetitive memory, emotional memory. And so like after the breakup, I just like miss her when I'd get nerve pain. I was like, this is the worst thing, you know, it's like I'm going through this and all, I'm like, I want to call her. I'm like, shut up, dude. You know, but now whenever I get like, I have to be very careful about this, whenever I get a female figure in my life that's comforting to me, they become that, and then I get this like compound of all of the past ones together with this when I get nerve pain. Which is, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, because it's really hard to find people to have very terrible neuropathy that aren't like quadriplegics, you know.
That's true. You know, I do know some people, and it is challenging because it affects like their work life, you know, like they get so involved with work, like they use that as like a quote unquote crutch, you know, in their life. And then they just get so consumed to working 60, 70 hour weeks, you know, not because they need the money, just because they need something to fill that time, fill that space that's maybe missing. I've seen it. I've seen it.
And
before.
That's the crazy thing, is that, so I was working this, like my first like real job, I was working at Duluth Trading Company.
Cool.
Yeah, loved
the one here in Draper, right?
Yeah, great. Buy their clothes, but I'm just giving out.
It's good. No, dude.
Somebody sponsor me, but
sponsor this man.
But yeah, I was working there, and it was just a part-time job, but I hadn't been up on my feet like that, and I remember I'd literally be like running from the pain, because if I stood still, it started to hurt a lot. But if I was moving, so they'd be like, Johnny, you're working really hard today. It's like, I am feeling like absolute shit, and that's why I'm doing well right now. But I remember
outperforming everybody because I'm in pain.
Yeah, like exactly. Yeah. But and it's been a lot better with this job. Gladly, I've got a lot of things that have helped me out. Doctors didn't really help me for a while. It seemed that they wanted to give me stuff that would just numb me out and dole me out, and I was like, I need energy. It's like I need pain and energy. So I started using Kratom. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have,
but
and it's too bad we don't live in a. I mean, I'm sure you qualify for like medical marijuana here in Utah, right? Too, right?
Yeah, I've got a car. You see that?
Yeah. Oh,
that pen right there.
I was
that's legal. But
I was looking at that. I was like, yes, okay.
Yeah,
I know what that is.
Yeah, it's very expensive though.
It is.
Yeah, and of course I can't use that during work, but and they're like, don't use kratom. It's like, we'll give you tramadol. It's like, so you're gonna give me something that's more addictive and just doles me out. It's like, or I can take this, which is like taking Adderall and like tramadol together, and I'm just like, I'm working hard, I'm working my ass off, and it's awesome. And I started taking testosterone boosters as well, not steroids. Apparently, I have to always clarify that.
I understood
it, but just get my energy up, get me happier, get me moving, and that's been a tremendous amount of help. But
dude, well that's insane. Like, when it comes to like, I guess neuropathy. So can you, for those that maybe don't know what that is, can you kind of dive into that? Like, what is that?
So it's basically it's kind of like ghost pains. I don't know if you've ever heard of that with like people that lose a limb or something like that, and they'll start to get like tingling sensations and what they think is their fingers. When my pelvis dislocated from the spine, it damaged a bunch of ligaments and nerves in my right leg. Mostly the lower part of my right glute, my right calf, and my toes. And so just think of like the back seam of like a pant leg. I can't feel any of that. I can't feel my glute or anything down, and then my heel and kind of around to 2 toes. And that's where I get the nerve pain. I don't get it in anything that I can feel. It's just like, and at first it was where I would start to get sensation back. And it was right after I got out of the hospital. It was very, very strange.
Right.
It would be very specific feelings. It would just feel like somebody was like slowly slicing me open with a knife, or somebody had like a screwdriver on my bone and was just digging it in. And and then you get emotional. It's a pain that like you can't really get away from.
No.
Which is crazy. In February of, I think it would have been 2019, I was hospitalized for this. And I remember I went in there, they gave me Oxy, Percocet, and morphine. And I was still screaming and writhing in pain.
Oh my gosh.
And this memory is always like, I've always hated it. And it's one of the reasons that I don't let people in when I'm having pain. Because I remember my dad was trying to comfort me, and I remember kind of being like snapping at him and being like, "There's nothing's gonna work." And I remember just seeing this, like, all the hope kind of like drain out of his eyes.
Wow.
There's nothing worse than being with somebody that you love,
especially your child.
Yeah, and seeing like them get, like, again, it's like you're getting tortured for hours, and knowing that you can't do a single thing about it.
You're so helpless.
Yeah, and so I've kind of like kept it a little bit more to myself, and it usually happens at night, so it's easier to do that. But for me, and it happens in spurts. Sometimes it'll be like a month where I get it every single night, and then I haven't had it in probably 2 months now. But I might get, in a week where, the best way to describe it is it feels like you're getting hit with a cattle prod in your leg in certain areas, and it's horrific. I'd say that's the worst pain that I've ever felt in my life. I would break both my femurs and shatter my pelvis again if somebody said. I mean, it's also 2 hours with that versus 10 hours with electrical shock therapy. I'd take that anytime. But
and it seems like, you're, like you said, you're pretty active now. I mean, like you work a lot. I mean, you work. Yeah. I mean, sounds like you do a lot of physical activity still. I mean, have you've been up to the spot, right? A few times, right?
I hike it whenever I can. I'm gonna hike it this Wednesday. Hopefully after I get off work. But
I'd probably, is it pretty hard? I mean, I don't mind.
It's a decent hike. I wouldn't. It's not like it's like a 10 mile or anything like that.
But it's just more just the climb.
Yeah. But it's a gorgeous hike. I highly recommend it to anybody that doesn't want to sit up on the top of a waterfall. But
no kidding. So did you do any of the? This is just random. I know we're kind of moving away from where we were before, but did you do any of the treasure hunting thing, like with those two guys?
No, you talked about it with Jenny.
Dude, I was so close, man. No, I was literally like probably 40, 50 feet away from it.
How do you know you're 40 or 50 feet away from it?
Because they showed where it was afterwards.
Oh, and then they got it?
One of the trail cams was that they had up was me. I was like taking pictures of myself.
Wait, and somebody's gotten it now?
Oh yeah, somebody found it. Yeah, and now they're doing like a kid treasure hunt now. And
where was it?
It was up on not Adams Canyon. That's in Layton. It's Hughes Canyon.
Oh,
Hughes Canyon up in I don't even. It's not too far from here, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hughes Canyon, I followed the directions specifically, and then I just.
What was the Emerald Tunnel?
It was a green.
Yeah, I was thinking it was up at Alpine. What is it at Snowbird? They've got like the green tunnel.
Alpine tunnel was specifically vague, but the Alpine tunnel was basically just a tunnel of leaves and trees.
Oh, okay.
It could have been anywhere, but it was the dead giveaway for me was
the bear. That was the weird thing.
Yeah, well, they realized after the fact that the bear could have been anything. Like anybody's imagination can go turn up anything into a bear, and it did. And so they didn't even. I think the dead giveaway, unintentional actually, was picking your way back and forth. You know, remember that part in the riddle. So in Hughes Canyon, if you've gone too far, there's like a little plaque that shows who designed the trail. Yeah, and he has a pickaxe. And if you look straight up, that's where the treasure was.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I was thinking about going for it.
I knew there was.
I have never even been up there.
Yeah,
so.
it's a cool hike. It's super easy. I mean, it goes up on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail a bit, but I mean, you can go up towards the falls a little ways, and then I mean, it's a beautiful hike. I actually took advantage of the whole situation because it was one of those things where I'm like, I haven't been on many hikes here in Utah, and so I'm like, let's do it.
Do you have the app All Trails?
I do.
I was gonna say
I have the paid subscription too. Cause I'm like, I gotta save them. I make my own.
Serious?
I mean, I create maps for a living, and so
so All Trails is.
Yeah, I load them into my GIS software, my geographic information science software, and I'd like examine. Okay, that's how I was able to narrow it down with a buddy of mine where this treasure was.
It's like you guys picked the wrong guy to to go up against you. This is my thing.
I didn't know where exactly it was. I knew I was right in the right spot. It was hidden somewhere, and it really was. It was in a little tiny cave with a dead tree branch over it, buried in some pebbles.
We should make one, but not put any money in it.
Yeah, we should just put a note like, gotcha.
Or like somebody's been here already and nobody knows who got the money, but there was no money to begin with.
Or like just fill it with a bunch of random stuff from Goodwill or DI or something like that. Dude, it's fun. It was fun, and I hope to do it next year. I hope to have those guys on the podcast eventually, but
that would be sweet.
They're just so busy all the time. I understandably, but dude, like I just appreciate you telling your story. Like I know I'm sure it's hard. Like you almost had me there for a minute. Like when you were talking about like just that feeling of like I could just fall asleep right now. Yeah. Like dude, I can't even imagine what that feels like.
It's crazy.
Like you could just fall asleep, just peacefully go.
Yeah.
You know, but in hindsight, if you're in that position, if I was in that, I couldn't tell you what I'd do in that position. Yeah. But
that's the question too. Is it's like everybody's always wondered. You know, you watch a movie like you see The Revenant or something. Like, could I crawl for miles like that? And then it comes into the question. It's like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
And to like have those conversations alone, if I wasn't with people, your brain plays some tricks on you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think you're very fortunate to have like the people that you did there, because I mean you had an EMT, a veteran EMT, you know, or it's a veteran and an EMT, EMT training, and I mean you just had people there to just talk to you, and you know, you were awake enough, you were aware enough to say call this person, which is lucky, because a lot of people, they'll just pass out from something like that, you know. And like my buddy Logan, he was on a couple episodes ago, he talked about when he was on that train. I mean, it was 50 minutes from the time that his leg was severed off his body to the time he received the first ambulance.
Yeah.
Like
40. How did he stop the bleeding?
He didn't.
Gosh.
He lost 12.
Gosh.
He's up to 12.
50 minutes.
Yeah.
Gosh. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was probably, I mean, I don't know how similar the bleeding would have been between me and him.
Yeah, he said most of his lower body, or I think it was what he said, his lower body was gray, like you said. Yeah, he lost enough. They said that when he got back to, because this was down in Brazil, he said that when he got back home, they said, honestly, you should have died that day.
Was he alone?
No, he had his companion with him.
Okay.
He
was on a mission?
He was on a mission.
Gosh.
Yeah, they jumped on a train.
I was going to say, like, that's a man if he went through that alone.
Yeah, I know. But even so, I mean, they didn't have a tourniquet. They were in gym clothes because they were going for a morning run. And so they were just in the middle of this neighborhood, and it was just, I don't know what I would have done. And especially, like, his companion that was with him, I mean, he was just trying to keep up with his companion, just to get on the train and try to keep track of him.
Were they train hopping? Is that what they were doing?
No, I think what happened was the companion, he jumped on the train. Logan didn't want to, but then he just started chasing after him anyways, and then it started to go around like a little ridge or little corner, and he lost track of him. And then as soon as he tried to jump on, he slipped.
Yeah.
And then he like tried to grab onto something else.
And he swung himself under. Yeah.
And he swung under, and then it caught him, spit him back out.
Yeah. So my grandfather's grandfather was killed by a train.
Jeez.
Yeah. That's my middle name namesake. Stuart. Which is crazy because I don't have good luck with large locomotives. I've been in 3 major car accidents since I was 3.
Oh my gosh.
2
and here I am, never broken a bone in my life.
Yeah.
So
well, and I've broken my nose, both my femurs, a rib. I didn't even know I'd broken the rib until like 4 days into the hospital. I mean, being awake, and they're like, "Well, you can't collapse a lung without breaking rib." And I was like, "Which rib?" And I still don't know to this day which rib I broke.
You know what?
But
the fact that you did and that you didn't care, that's pretty cool.
I think there was so much else going on, but I don't know. I don't remember. Like, have you ever? Oh, I guess you probably,
No, not really. I've never had any serious trauma, like bodily trauma.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't remember like having like a shortness of breath or anything like that. And so a lot of the times they were telling me injuries, I was like, are you sure? Like, did that really happen? But I was like, 'cause, I don't know. I don't consider, I mean, I'd say I'm a tougher person than most, but I don't consider myself some like absolute badass to the point that I'm like, yeah, I broke a rib and collapsed a lung and didn't even notice.
Sure,
but so it's kind of odd, but
yeah, well, I mean, when you're in, honestly, like I'm glad that I haven't. I don't. As a kid, I'm always like, oh, that person came to school in a cast. I want a cast. Yeah. But I really don't want a cast.
Oh, being rolled around when I was 7 years old in a wheelchair. They had to have a new person do it every day. Like it was like the line leader thing. Somebody had to get assigned to do it because everybody kept fighting over it.
Well, hey, I remember those days. Like when you get to help the kid, like the disabled kid in the class, you were just like, yes, this is better than being the line leader.
Exactly. No, but people loved it. Yeah. But great way to get ladies.
Great way
being
to get
injured. But
injured. Oh,
yeah, they take pity on you.
Old ladies take pity on you.
That was one of the jokes that I make when I've got the cane is I get girls with granddaddy issues, not daddy issues.
I don't know if I should consider that a dad joke or not. Dude, that's insane though. Like I'm honestly super honored to just be talking to you, dude. Like I honestly, the reason why I do this podcast is because it's not even because, oh, it's possible to monetize, it's possible to do this, it's possible to do that. I don't care about that stuff. I do it because I enjoy it. I love creating things, and I think with this podcast too, I'm able to showcase people's experiences that aren't mine, that are different from mine. Of course, a lot of the people that I've had on have similar hobbies and interests in, that, like me, but, I like being able to talk to people that, grew up different than I did, that were able to, that experienced bodily trauma that I've never had before. And, and just overcoming things that I think, like I said, in the title, deserve an epic handshake. You know what I mean? But is there anything before, I guess we end, is there anything that you want to plug before? I mean, we plugged a lot of stuff, which is good. Yeah. I hope you do that. Is there anything else you want to say? Any final comments?
Well, just on that last part, I think that one of the things that's helped me grow the most is being open-minded to people. Yes. And a lot of people say they're open-minded, but they're open-minded in a societal kind of way, but they're not actually open-minded to different things than they have. You know, a lot of people are like, we're open-minded to what they think like this person doesn't like, but open-mindedness is actually being able to have a conversation with anybody. And I think that that has been, and I haven't always been great about it, but that's been one thing that has helped me grow into a better person more than anything else, is being able to talk and love anybody that I come across. And that's something I work on every single day. I mean, I could go on for another hour about the journey that I've had since my fall, but it's been a lot of up and downs. But one thing that's really helped is being open-minded to actual things and other people to be able to build myself into a better person. Because one thing that I really search for in life is the duality of all things, the duality of who I am,
right?
Like the vulnerable guy as well as the strong guy, you know, with the, like, I want to be the kind of guy that can, you know, kick somebody's ass if I need to, and then go home and write a song, you know, kind of a thing. You know, I want to be somebody that's well-rounded.
The brave versus the scared, you know, all that stuff. Like finding those pieces of you that you haven't really, quote unquote, explored, and then exploiting that in a good way. You know, I get that.
Yeah, but if there's one thing that I could just like say to people to, based off of what I've learned, is just life is short. I mean, you can die falling down the stairs, and in the end, you're not going to care how much money you have in your bank. You're just going to care how much you took care of the people in your life and others around you. And of course, I'm always working and trying to remind myself of those things. But if you're ever wondering what you're going to think about when you die, it's going to be how you loved and what you did, the things that actually made you happy, not financially or anything like that. So
it's not about that. Yeah, it's not about that. Yeah, now you think about, and now that I think about that, like, it's, and I'll add a few more things, but like, you know, it's almost cliche to say, like, don't take your life for granted, but I think there's a lot of people in the world that do take their life for granted. Like, you know, people that are rich, people that are poor. You don't have to necessarily have everything in your life to take things for granted. I mean, you could take your family for granted. I mean, think about all the people that neglect their children, you know, even though then other people are fighting to have children, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, you know, people that take having a job, for example, especially like after, you know, COVID, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, just people that lost their jobs and lost their loved ones potentially. And, you know, it's sad. You don't realize what you have until it's gone. And I hate saying that, but I always, you know, I'm one of those people that likes to say I love you after every phone call I have with my wife, you know, with if I'm in a rush, I'll try to say I love you to my daughter, my mom, my siblings. And, you know, I can kind of say the same thing. Like, if you're having issues with family or friends right now, I would say reach out to them. And just even if you're in a stark, heavy disagreement, I would say still reach out to them. Because it's not worth it. You know, even if it's something that whoever's fault it might be, you know, I would say just reach out to them and tell them you love them, because you could lose them tomorrow. They could lose you tomorrow. Yeah. You never know. And it's just not worth that absence of somebody that has ties to you. You know, that's your friend, that's your family member, stuff. So
one thing that an epiphany I had recently that really helped me with that is the amount of pain you feel is not equivalent to the amount of effort they put into hurting you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we try to be like, well, I'm hurting this much, so they must be this evil of a person. You know, and it's not true. Usually when we get hurt the most, it's when people are doing the least amount of effort.
Yeah.
You know, so just like, I think that just being aware of that and understanding that we're all people, we're all trying our best, and none of us are perfect, but you have to understand that not many people are actually out there trying to hurt you.
No.
And if they are, they're usually not very good at it, because people that try to hurt other people are generally doing a piss poor job of it.
Yeah,
but
no kidding, man.
Because the things that hurt us the most are, again, usually just a lack of effort than anything else.
Yeah. Or, you know, and people that are, like you said, that are trying to hurt someone else, it's the least amount of effort. And if they're putting in effort, it's like, you know, they're wasting their energy. You know, when they could be doing other things that are more productive in their own personal life. We definitely could go into a lot more stuff. We could talk for a while. But we'll just have to have you on again, man.
Yeah, I'd love that.
That'd be cool.
This has been a great experience.
Yeah. But be sure to check him out. What's your handle? Do you have an Instagram? Yeah, you have
Moose
Instagram.
Wrangler. Yeah,
Moose Wrangler
with a W. Apparently, I have to say that a lot.
Moose Wrangler.
Moose Wrangler.
Yeah, Moose Wrangler. And I'll put that in the descriptions below for pretty much every platform, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. So be sure to check him out. Reach out to him if you have any questions. You know, if you have any loved ones that are in a similar situation, I'm sure he's happy to respond to those things. And if you can't get a hold of him, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But yeah, once again, man, thanks again for being on the show, and
it's been a pleasure.
And we'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Yeah.